Shit. I am live. I'm looking for that one, a brighter light. I've got my hat for anything. I guess that could work. Yeah, I got my hat. That'll work. This one's about, that light is just not working, is it? Try that one. As a target individual and I didn't know it for most of my life, I just knew that I had this massive constant chest pain, and I had no idea what caused it. But what I noticed is that they have something also called broken heart syndrome. It's like Katsuo's disease or something, where in women, they go through a traumatic experience, a loss of a loved one or something, and it gets viewed as a negative, sad emotional reaction, causing so extreme it causes a pain in the left side of one of the left arteries, like trauma to it. And it wasn't discovered until like the early 90s in Japan. They name it Tatsuyatsu kind of because it makes it, in the Japanese word for it is like a crab trap, because the vessel looks like a crab trap in Japanese language. So they name it after that. But you think this has been in 1990s. They've had women and men suffering from loss of spouses or traumatic problems for centuries. But why wasn't it found out or diagnosed or given a name until the 1990s, that suddenly women or men, but in this case it's mainly women, mostly like most targeted individuals are women. I'm a guy. Yep. And no, I'm wearing clothes. But and what it is that this technology was still relatively new in the 90s. But so many women in Japan and in America were coming down with this, a traumatic event, a loss of a loved one. And when you are a TI, you realize this thing, that synthetic telepathy is real. As weird to people who aren't TIs, that sounds too weird, but I'm telling you, it's real. With V2K, it's real. They tell you what you're thinking quietly to yourself, thinking to yourself, and they're telling you to you. And it's not nutty. It's just, they're just regular people just going, oh, what are we going to do with you, Alan? Or this is nuts, I'm wondering if the synthetic telepathy is there from years before, and they can see what you're going through, or the loss of a potential loss in the near future of a loved one. And then when it happens, they hit you with a do at the same time. So anyway, it's just too damn. Anyway, when you're a TI with V2, a target individual with voice to skull, and synthetic telepathy is real, and suddenly a brand new illness, and suddenly in the last 50 years, with the DSM, there's this outbreak of brand new. The DSM went from 69 pages to how big is it now? New diagnoses, new types of autism, new types of this and that, and how much of stuff. The liberal viewpoint will just say, well, we're just characterizing things that used to be accepted as normal. We're realizing now we're diseases, or we're just branching out into, and it's like the other people are kind of like saying, no, there are new diseases that seemingly weren't there 50, 60 years ago that are now being brought into existence from a new something, a new environment, global warming. But when you're a TI, it's also technology. And it's unfortunately our own government doing it to us. So think about it, that they have synthetic telepathy. They hit mainly women, like targeted individuals are mainly women. And if they can foresee something you're going through, and then the snap within a day of having it happen, hit your heart with a do or a bunch of do's, causing that type of trauma. That's what I'm not a girl, but I've had dues, and it feels it's painful, depressing, sad, because it's that lower, and it's a real pulling feeling of like, do you feel down? No energy, you don't want to do much, because it's that type of a physical pain. When you're in pain, you have a tendency to be depressed, a little sad, because it's pain. Pain doesn't make you happy, it brings you down. And if you have a traumatic, sad experience that correlates with that, they will say correlation or causation. But when you're a TI and you realize this stuff is true, you realize it's not just in America they're doing this. They're doing it in Japan, China, but it wasn't until the early 90s. If you look up, broken heart syndrome, it was diagnosed officially in the early 90s. Well, this has been going on before that, but not, maybe a decade or two before, but still relatively recent. They finally got a diagnosis. And for them to realize, it's like, it really could be, we can look and see what medications that physicians are using on women with broken heart syndrome that can heal their heart, to see if that might help people with DUEs. I don't know if they're just going to give more DUEs to enhance, just keep doing it, or if they will allow whatever medications to heal it up. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to try to redo this again sometime, because the lighting is terrible. So sorry about that. Tell me what you think. Thanks, guys.